Greetings, kindred. So we're coming up to the full moon, and I'm just going to get straight into the times for when the full moon reaches its peak. So the full moon will reach its peak actually in the sign of Scorpio at 1 degree on the 23rd of May 2024 at 14:53 here in the GMT time zone, at 9:53 in the EDT time zone, and at 23:53 in the AEDT time zone. So as the full moon reaches its peak, it will be coming into, or actually just gone over Pallas, the goddess Pallas, who's in retrograde right now. So, this really is probably the only kind of positive aspect I'm seeing here with this chart. Because, when Pallas is in conjunction with the moon, it does bring some emotional intelligence into the equation. But the moon has bypassed. I mean, that did occur in Libra, the sign of Libra, which is really all about justice, balance, in a positive sense. But really, the moon in Scorpio, I mean, the moon is in its full in Scorpio, so it's not actually a favorable placement for the moon to be. And with all the aspects as well, which I'm going to get into, I feel it's going to be a little bit of a challenging time. Now, Uranus is on his last degree of Aries before he enters into Taurus. Now, he will retrograde back into Aries at the end of the year. But I have actually done an article. So for those of you that reached out and replied to my question in my last video, thank you. Yeah, an article does work better because it's something you can refer back to, because I do cover Uranus entering into Taurus, Uranus then entering into retrograde in September, and then retrograding back into Aries, which will occur in December. So, it covers quite a span of time, my article. So, when I'm doing things that cover a larger expanse of time, I'd rather write an article. It's easier to go back and read through the bits you want rather than having to listen to a whole video. So, yeah. So I will link that article below. It's already out there. And for those of you that haven't already read that, I really highly recommend you do, because it might make this moon cycle, this full moon period, make more sense. So, I mean, the moon in Scorpio, it's very strong emotions with this moon sign. Scorpio is a very private sign, and also, can hold grudges. Do you know what I mean? So it's all about the emotion, the scorpionic emotions, which in its immaturity can be quite possessive and manipulative and, dominating, especially if that scorpion energy is, carrying kind of baggage from the past, or has any insecurities or sensitivities that can trigger them. Do you know what I mean? And it's not like they're loud with it, because they're very quiet, and they move very quietly. And, but revenge is definitely on their mind with this energy. So I would say that, with this opposition to this little stellium here. Now, this little stellium, I mean, is quite positive in the respect that, Jupiter and Venus and Uranus are all involved with the sun. So this can create, that feel-good energy where we can be really positive and optimistic and, just follow our higher wisdom. Do you know what I mean? But I just feel that with this opposition, especially this opposition creating this T-square towards the goddess Juno, who is all about commitment, especially in Leo, it's very, very loyal. I just feel that, some of us can be taken advantage of, basically. And again, I've said in the past, sometimes we can commit to things, and even though we can't quite put our finger on, what it is that we're feeling uncomfortable with, we're kind of choosing to ignore it, basically. I feel that's the kind of theme of this energy that I'm seeing here. And this little stellium here, it can make us a little bit too laid back. But because Jupiter and Venus at 5 degrees, that's a shifting and productive energy. So I do feel maybe some lessons will be learned this full moon when it comes to our relationships or our commitments that, we've been committed to it, we've been loyal to it. And, it's very hard to let go sometimes because of the time and the effort that we've put in. But really, all we're doing is prolonging that inevitable kind of breakdown or breaking away from, or, and with Uranus here, even though Uranus is in Aries and, but Jupiter, Venus, and the Sun are in Taurus. So, Taurus is not one for change, but Aries is. So I think as Uranus enters into Taurus on the, I think it's the 24th of May, actually, the day after the full moon. So I'm recording this on the 21st. Yeah, it's the 21st today. So yeah, the Uranus will enter into Taurus the day after. So I really do feel when Uranus moves into Taurus, it's going to really give us a good kick, or for those of us that are in that stuck energy. So it could be sudden changes in our commitments or how we value our commitments. Maybe we'll be recognizing things because that energy is already being triggered, where we recognize things, even if we're blinding ourselves to it. Because the goddess Juno is in opposition to Saturn, but Saturn is also in opposition to the Black Moon Lilith. So, we can be blindsided, but I really do feel that maybe there's some kind of reveal that we're on the edge of that, or some of us are, definitely. But also, this T-square that involves our moon towards Juno. I mean, with the moon in opposition to Venus, we can be oversensitive. Maybe we're comfort eating or trying to suppress all the, the discomfort that we're feeling right now. So we really need to watch out for overindulgence to fill a gap that we might be feeling is there in our lives. So I would just watch out for that. And with the moon in opposition to Jupiter, well, this is where we can lack wisdom. Again, it's that feel-good feeling where we can take things for granted, or we can be too extravagant, or we could even be avoiding facing things. And I really do feel that's more to the point, because I feel there's this great sense of avoidance going on, where we're kind of getting all the signs and all the little kind of triggers, but we're kind of pushing them to the side. So I really do feel if we're doing that, maybe we need to check ourselves if we find ourselves doing that. The only problem is with the Black Moon Lilith involved, it may be hard for us to see. So it may have to be pointed out by others that are more in their wisdom, more in their emotional maturity. So, yeah, I do feel maybe some grounding techniques. We really don't know what's hidden. And Scorpio is an energy of the hidden. It's a very investigative energy, though, as well. So it is giving us the ability to investigate anything that's hidden. And but it can feel like a big burden because of this opposition with the Black Moon, Lilith, and Saturn. We can tend to feel overburdened with that energy. It's almost like, going down the rabbit hole and, having to find a way out. It's like a maze. But I think, if we do it in a grounded way, then I just feel that it can be a very productive time over the next few weeks. So definitely I feel we need to develop, healthy boundaries with others or healthy boundaries with situations, because there's a lot of insecurity I'm seeing in this chart. Especially, Chiron is in conjunction with Mars and the North Node here. This Chiron North Node conjunction has been going on for a little while. Even though it's in separation now, there is still energy there that needs to be healed, basically. And when Mars is in Pisces, he does tend to lose his power. So, where he's normally impulsive and fast paced, in Pisces, in those deep waters, it really does slow him down. And he's not familiar with being over emotional about things. So his emotions can come out more as sensitivities. So these oppositions here against the moon, this little stellium, and with Mars in Pisces coming into conjunction with Chiron, I feel it's a highly sensitive time. And also Scorpio, with the moon in Scorpio, that's a very psychic energy. So if we're really sensitive, we're feeling really sensitive, we're going to be picking up on so much. And because, the moon is in this fall, it's going to tend to be more negative, or we're going to feel more vulnerable. We're not going to feel appreciated, for all the efforts or the energy that we're putting into things. So I would just say that we need to focus on ourselves. The number one is all about yourself, and it can be a positive energy. So anything negative we're feeling during the next few weeks, any negative feelings or situations, I feel that we need to just step back, reflect, do some grounding techniques, or maybe even just sit and just meditate and just allow, information to come in, whether it's in feelings or whether we use our psychic energy professionally. And when I say professionally, I mean that we're adept to that, whether we're doing it, professionally or not, I should say. But I feel that, if we do these techniques, even maybe a little bit of yoga, stretching, because when we're going through highly sensitive times, especially if we've got a lot of Aquarian in our charts or Uranian energy, it can tend to make us feel even more hypersensitive. It's like electric. So there is this really electric energy going on here, but it's an uncomfortable electric energy. For some, it will feel good. For those that are in their emotional maturity, or in their creative, like are flowing creatively, because there's a lot of energy here as well that's very creative, especially for musicians or artists. So I just feel that if we can release that energy into art, crafting, whatever you think, then I feel like, we're on the right path of using this energy in a more positive sense. So, it's really all about habits that we've formed throughout our lives as well, especially with Chiron now, where we haven't been in our self-worth, or we haven't valued ourselves enough. And it's funny because when I'm looking back on the years that I've been doing this astrology, this 13 Star Sign Astrology, I mean, I've been doing it for more than 10 years now. And I've noticed that, I get these chunk of themes. So I'd say, when I initially started with 13 Star Sign Astrology, I was getting all this information about us developing this unconditional love. And then after that, it was more about us getting into our self-power right up to 2020. You know, it's like we had to recognize we were sovereign beings and we had to get into our self-power. And then since then, what I've seen is like dealing with a lot of old stuff now, because I feel as we're evolving on a spiritual, kind of intellectual level, I feel that, you know, there's triggers there to clear out a lot of things. You know, it's like separating the wheat from the chaff when it comes to our very being, our own individual beings, you know. So I feel like many are getting into their self-power. There's a lot of information out there now to help people understand, you know, their environments and what's going on in the world. You know, even though there's different opinions, it's really what resonates with you as an individual. So I just feel that we really have come a long way. And if we are going through this hypersensitive time over the next few weeks, if we can just look at how far we've come as an individual and as a collective, then I think, you know, it gives us the optimism really to move forward. So we can use all this optimism to keep ourselves moving forward. And the one thing I love about the Taurian energy is it's steadfast and it will keep going regardless. Do you know what I mean? So if we can use that energy wisely, but recognize, you know, that there are triggers there are signs there, and we really must take note of them. You know, so with these squares with the Sun, Jupiter, and Venus squaring the goddess Juno, well, it's mostly really the Sun that's squaring Juno, but because these Venus and Jupiter are very close to the Sun, that they will be influencing the Sun's energy. Now they're at 5 degrees, so it's more or less an exact conjunction. Only Venus is just moving on now. And the Sun is at 9 degrees, which to me, that is Scorpion energy as well in 13 Star Sign Astrology, because the 9th house in the True Lifetime Sky Astrology is the house of Scorpio. So, and it's not quite in the 9th house though here in the UK, still in the 8th house, so coming in. But I really do feel when Uranus shifts into Taurus the next day, do you know what I mean? There's gonna be some kind of breakthrough. There's gonna be some kind of shifting forward. And I really do feel that's gonna happen for many, whether it's individually, collectively, or globally. So I feel that we are going to see some big shifts coming about over the next few weeks. Maybe some of us who don't like change will be rather sensitive to all these changes that are being brought in or being suggested. Or maybe we're coming to terms with things, the reality of things. Maybe we have been wearing a mask and it's time for us to become more authentic in what we really feel, in what we really think. You know, there's a lot of relationship wounding here I'm seeing as well. And I've been seeing that in the Uranus, when I was looking at the Uranus chart, you know. So some of us, we get into relationships, you know, that are not good for us because we don't value ourselves enough, or we've got baggage from the past. So really, this is all about relationship healing. Healing ourselves. And if we are stuck in a relationship that's not good for us, then all we're doing is blocking the path or the way for someone new who would treat us how we want to be treated to come in. So, you know, I feel there's a lot of recognition coming into this like new cycle that we're beginning. When Uranus enters Taurus, it's going to be a new cycle. You know, I think Uranus entered into Aries around about 2019, 2018, 2019. And honestly, things have been so erratic since then. I think it was actually 2019, actually, around about April 2019. I can't quite remember now. But, you know, there was big changes going on. I mean, we know since then, it's just been chaos, and Uranus retrograding through Aries is chaos. But, you know, the good thing about him moving into Taurus is that the energy will slow down a bit. But in Taurus, it does bring a lot of change around our economy and our resources. And we really want those changes to be for the good, not adding more pressure to what we've been going through already. Um, you know, with the Black Moon Lilith, like I said, in opposition to Saturn, it does feel like a burden. And this opposition has been going on for over a year now. I remember last year, Black Moon Lilith was flitting between Pluto and Saturn in our opposition, but now it's kind of mostly Saturn and Neptune. And so when she's in opposition to Neptune, it's all about an apprehension about the future, not knowing, you know, can't make plans because we just don't know where we're heading. And when she's in opposition to Saturn, it just feels like a heavy burden. And it does really is all about a breaking down of either situations or relationships in our lives. That's very hard to come to terms with. So, but these energies are here to help us find our gifts, to help us find like healing, um, you know, and to become more authentic about who we are and what we actually deserve or what we feel we deserve in life. You know, we shouldn't settle for second best or settle for things that are, you know, not in alignment with our well-being. So, kindred, I'm going to leave it there, and I hope this reading has been of help to you. And as always, I'm sending you peace and much love. Take care.